you've got to understand what language people speak. And it varies based on if it's the employees, the managers, the senior. We're not just there just for compliance. It's a function that will help the people, to help the product, to help the profit. If you don't know what it is, HR is instantly, it's got this connotation that they are around when something bad happens.
Yeah.
So trying to show them what you can do outside of that is really important. And I think to build that trust, it's all about those relationships.
Hello, and thank you for tuning in to the Yorkshire Business Podcast. We feature bright and brilliant businesses from across Yorkshire. Today, I'm joined by Leanne. Leanne heads up the HR function at Rotherham-based ZND. ZND is the market-leading manufacturer of event barriers, hoarding, pedestrian barriers, and associated products. Leanne's relatively new to the business, and in this conversation, we talk about credibility and how we develop that as HR professionals. My name's Chloe, I'm the founder of OneSource HR, and I'm the host of the Yorkshire Business Podcast.
My name's Leanne. I'm originally from Chesterfield, but now I'm based in Sheffield. And I've just started a new role in the summer this year in ZND as their standalone HR for the first time, so really exciting.
Yeah, good stuff. What does ZND do? Where are they based? Tell us more about them.
So they are based in Rotherham. So we've got our factory and our offices based there up near Parkgate. So what we do is we manufacture temporary barriers, hoarding systems, anything to do with crowd control, safety, all of that sort of stuff. So since working at ZND, I can't not stop seeing all of these barriers and gates and things. So I've been to stadiums, I've been to, festivals, they're literally everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
But what we pride ourselves in is something called Smart Weld. And that is a type of welding process which makes everything like the joints in the barriers so much stronger. So we end up being such a trusted supplier of these products. And we do large, massive projects all around the UK, so it's really good.
Yeah, that's really exciting. Do you know what? I love finding out what different businesses do. And you drive past and you think, oh my God, I wonder what they're doing there, like it's so big. And then finding out and bringing it to life and seeing sort of the tangible products all around you that are made and manufactured, like right here in Yorkshire.
Yeah.
It makes you feel like really proud to work there, doesn't it?
Definitely, yeah. And manufacturing's so big, especially in Sheffield, so it's so nice to be a part of that.
Yeah, it's a really lovely business community, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So how have you found day-to-day life in HR in a manufacturing environment, as a standalone HR function?
So busy. Literally, there's not one day that's the same. And you can have something in your calendar, in your diary, and think, okay, that's my day. And it can just be absolutely blown out of the water. So time management is huge.
Mm-hmm.
But it just varies because people need something different from you all the time. So managers might need some help with coaching or with some ER casework. Employees might need a chat, or you might need a little bit of well-being. So it varies, but I try and split myself so much between the office environment and the factory. So I'll just be zipping between both of them every day.
Yeah. I think that's really important, isn't it, to build that credibility and trust with people. I've found in manufacturing environments, if you're not careful and it's not well managed, you can kind of get that us and them between office and shop floor.
Definitely.
So actually meeting people where they're at and being really physically visible on the shop floor is mega important.
Yeah, definitely. Especially when you're establishing yourself for the first time as that first role, that visibility is key.
Yeah, because going into ZND, you are the first sort of internal HR practitioner that they've had, aren't you?
Yeah.
Yeah. And how long have they been going as a business?
So they established in 1997, so quite a number of years.
Yeah.
And in manufacturing, as we've spoke about before, manufacturers got this famous phrase, "We've always done it like this."
Yeah.
We've always done it this way, which is really great. But it's good to move, and change is good. So.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, and it's just managing change carefully and bringing people with you on that journey. I think that's change management is a whole complex thing in itself, and something that we definitely need to upskill leaders and managers in doing. But yeah, sort of that first standalone role, like I've experienced that. I worked for a business that had been operating for over 200 years and they'd never had anybody in an internal HR position. And I started there standalone. And it's incredibly difficult to build that credibility with the workforce.
Yeah.
Because I think sometimes there are misconceptions about your role and what you're there to do. Have you found that?
Yeah, definitely. So just the role in itself, if you don't know what it is, HR is instantly, it's got this connotation that they are around when something bad happens.
Yeah.
So trying to show them what you can do outside of that is really important. And I think to build that trust, it's all about those relationships.
How have you approached building trust with people who maybe aren't sure what HR are there to do or very familiar with HR as a kind of profession?
Yeah, so building trust, again, is about those relationships. So it's showing them and leading them and giving them the tools that they need to see the value, because for somewhere like manufacturing, they're very process driven and very output driven. So they need to see kind of the value for themselves, proofs in the pudding, and then those relationships start to build, and then that trust comes naturally after. Trust is something that's earned, rather than someone walking in that position when they've already got quite a different expectation as to what HR does, not quite sure. You can't go in all guns blazing.
No, definitely not. Yeah, I agree with that. Actually, I think respect is always a given, but trust is something that you constantly need to build and constantly need to reinforce, and sort of showing people that value in a tangible way where they can feel the outputs of your work is super important in that kind of environment where people in their day-to-day work, they do get to see a physical product at the end of it. Yeah, definitely. So how have you found transitioning from being in a larger team to being kind of standalone in an SME environment?
It's always really daunting at first, because when you're in a large team, there's about, I've come from a team where there was about 13 of us, and everyone specialises in something completely different. So if something happens, you can bounce ideas off each other, and you've got this large soundboard. Whereas when you're on your own, you're wearing all of those hats all at once. And it's daunting, but even that in itself is really rewarding as well, because it's not somewhere that you'd ever think that you could be, going from a team to on your own. So it is really rewarding. But what you've got to remember is that if you can manage something like that in a team with 700 members of staff, you're more than capable of doing it for an SME with around 100 members of staff. So it can be daunting, but so rewarding at the same time.
Yeah, I think being a generalist, it's really expanded a lot over the last decade, actually. I remember the first time, and it probably was about 10 years ago, that somebody came and knocked on my office door and said to me, "Oh, I'm here about the counselling." And I was like, sorry, what? And yeah, I'm here about the counselling. Okay, I'm not a counsellor. And they didn't really understand what HR's role was, but it was when sort of mental health awareness and mental health first aid and well-being was becoming much more prominent in the workplace. And that really was like a light bulb moment for me to think, okay, now the shape of this role and this profession is changing. And I think that's continued to happen, really. you know, with things like menopause, mental health, harassment, sexual harassment, organisational change, AI adoption. HR really are a central hub where we've become so stretched and expected to be experts in everything.
Yeah.
And that's not always possible. So whilst we do have to wear all of these different hats, sometimes the credibility, building credibility with people, comes from saying, you know what, I don't know the answer to that, but let me go away and find out, or find the right person, company, whatever resource that can help you.
Yeah, I agree. I used to think that credibility was I had to know everything, and it's not.
No.
Not at all.
No, you get more credibility from actually admitting that, I don't know the answer to this, but let's figure out how we can find out and how we can work through it together. It
builds that collaboration, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And then even that can help strengthen relationships. And then rather than telling somebody what HR can do, it's that demonstration again. And then it just starts making sense and clicking in. And I think that's how the function, with it being such a new one, is now being integrated into ZND.
Yeah.
We're not just there just for compliance. It's a function that will help the people, to help the product, to help the profit.
Yeah.
It's this massive piece, isn't it?
Yeah. I love what you said there. It's kind of my strap line. In my businesses, we do HR that connects people, performance and profit.
Yeah.
And as you know, like, my background's been in manufacturing and engineering, and that's really where that's inspired from. I've kind of seen firsthand how the engagement that you have from people impacts productivity. It can impact your customer experience, and ultimately it affects your bottom line.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, lovely. I think as well, around the not knowing the answer to everything, being standalone, you don't have a team of other HR professionals, but it does actually force you to forge better relationships with your operational colleagues.
Yeah.
So, you know, if you've got a factory manager or you've got an operations director, it's working more closely with them and thinking about how can we collaborate to co-deliver, what can I learn from you that's going to help me in my kind of professional capacity as well. Are you finding that in your role?
Yeah, definitely. So one of the things I made sure that I did once I got settled into that role is a part of that visibility was booking in one-to-ones with these people, because they're like your key stakeholders. And I found that I was listening more than I was speaking.
Yeah.
Because I could then build this picture of the business and actually ask them, what do you need? What's working for you? What isn't? And let's collaborate. And that's how having absolutely nothing to build from became this almost mind map of, okay, I've got this area and this area. And even now it's still growing arms and legs.
Yeah.
So it's great.
Yeah. I love what you said there about like listening more than speaking. Super, super important, because there's, you know, a business that's operated for however many years, 30 years or whatever, whether it's 30 years or 200 years, without somebody in a role, they've got this far. So coming in means that you have to learn about the business and see where you can really add value, and not just from that compliance perspective, as much as that's important.
Yeah.
What are the big people challenges that you see ahead for ZND? Because obviously right now we're going through this employment rights bill. It's the biggest overhaul to employment law that we've seen in well over a decade. It's a lot to navigate.
Yeah, definitely. So in manufacturing, I think it's hard anyway, and it is quite challenging because it's quite competitive, and the skills that you've got in manufacturing are in high demand. So I think anybody would say that the challenges are retaining those staff and keeping them engaged.
Yeah.
So I think it's really important to invest in that well-being and that culture approach. And culture for me is behaviour. So I'm not going to go in and, you know, start putting on the walls the values and behaviours. It's something that we need to demonstrate. But the Employment Rights Bill, it's going to tighten things up massively. and it's also going to extend a lot of protections as well. So I think it's quite a good time for me to have joined, because whilst I'm building it, I can think about that compliance. To me, it's really important because I'm already in that mindset of being more proactive than reactive.
Yeah.
And I think that's vital.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Proactivity as opposed to reactivity. And that's really important, not just from that compliance perspective, but what you touched on there about businesses that are perhaps suffering with skills gaps as well.
Yeah.
And one key thing that I'd pick up on that you said was you're focusing on how to retain people.
Yeah.
And I think that's where a lot of businesses fail when they're trying to address their skills gaps, because they're always thinking about what new talent do we need to add in.
Yeah.
Whilst that's a part of it, there is that element as well of how do we keep hold of what we've got?
Yeah.
How do we continue to upskill them? How do we help them to be at their best and move with the times and get to a capability or confidence level that we need them to?
Yeah, and that's why it's so important going back to meeting with these key stakeholders, because workforce planning is vital as well. Who have we got? What do they bring? You know, let's plan and let's put some succession planning in.
Yeah.
And I don't think people realise that HR can do that as well.
Yeah.
So that's really exciting.
Yeah, definitely. That's really, really key. And it's you're able to bring those real insights through people data to those conversations as well, which management teams might not have had the oversight of previously. Yeah. So things like, what is the age demographic of our workforce? Looking at it and thinking, oh my gosh, actually, not saying this is at ZND, but I mean, I've had a situation in the past where 40% of our workforce is due to retire in the next 5 years. What are we going to do?
Yeah.
And in 5 years, you're not going to bring enough talent in to plug the gap of people, of the skills people have developed over a 40-year career. So you've then got to get creative and think, right, what can we do here to retain these people for as long as possible beyond that kind of retirement age?
Yeah, and that's also helped me, thinking back on credibility, help towards that, because credibility, I found it helps with numbers. So that's almost like the senior leadership team and the CEO's like language, if you like.
Yeah.
So rather than having to spend a lot of time speaking about all the little day-to-day activities, I can put something in like an absence management process, great. But for those people at that top, they want to know, so what? Mm-hmm. So it's about collecting that data and showing them what it means, and then that credibility that comes.
Yeah, absolutely. How much it's costing them now, what it's cost over the past 12 months, and what you've reduced that cost by in the 12 months that follow. Yeah, you're absolutely right. You've got to learn to speak a little bit more of a commercial language. I think lots of people in HR across different sectors get to learn that. But I do think manufacturing and engineering in particular is an environment where it's kind of mandated that you have to speak that commercial language if you want to do really well in our profession. Yeah,
definitely. I couldn't agree more.
Yeah.
Numbers and data, you've got to understand what language people speak. And it varies based on if it's the employees, the managers, the senior. So, 100%.
Yeah, definitely. So we've talked a lot about credibility, but one thing that I want to touch on, if you're comfortable with it, is talking about confidence.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I reached out to you about coming on the podcast and you were like, oh my God, little old me.
Yeah.
Why would you want me to come on? And but that, we've met and we've spoken, and I always think you come across super confident, but you've told me that it's not always been that way.
Definitely not. I was absolutely terrified of speaking to people, even saying hello. So I couldn't imagine telling myself back then I'd be sat here today on a podcast. It's crazy.
Yeah.
And even going through like the roles at work, being in a massive team and feeling, that the confidence was knocked a little bit. and then going into a standalone role and seeing where I am now, confidence just comes up and down. But one thing I've learned about confidence is it's not a feeling. It's something that you do. Confidence to me is something that you've not yet tried.
Yeah.
And confidence is the feeling that you get once you've done it.
Yeah.
So I'll more than hopefully come out of this and think, do you know what, I feel really confident about that.
Yeah.
Because I've tried it.
Yeah.
But I've never ever used to be like this at all.
Yeah.
It's just foreign.
It's like a muscle that you exercise, isn't it? It's like, you know, you're not going to feel strong until you've been to the gym.
Yeah. You've got to do it.
Yeah, and it's similar with confidence. Do you think working in HR has helped with your confidence?
Yeah, definitely. Because you've just got to, it's either fight or fly. You can either sink or swim. It's not for everybody. It can be quite difficult. But when you come out the other side and you've helped someone either return them back to work after a long period of absence or something, that satisfaction comes, and then that confidence builds, and you think, actually, I can keep going at this.
Yeah.
And I really love it.
Yeah.
I didn't think I'd ever be in something like this.
No?
No.
So HR wasn't the plan?
No, I thought I wanted to teach.
Okay.
So I went to university and I taught Year 8 English, and I thought, actually, no, it's not for me.
No.
And I think that's because education felt a little bit more like a comfort zone. I wasn't sure that there was a big world out there.
Yeah.
But no, when I finished uni, I was actually a carer for a little bit until I could find something permanent. I've always been drawn to helping people.
Yeah.
And I think that's where it stems from.
Yeah, definitely. That's really interesting because when I was younger, my family thought I would be a great teacher. Like, oh, you'd be a wonderful teacher. And I kind of knew that I didn't want to do that, but I didn't know what I wanted to do. I fell into HR, really. Yeah. But interestingly, when young people ask me, like, what I do now, if I'm ever going into a school or something to talk about my career, I'll say, well, it's a bit like being a teacher, but for adults at work.
Yeah.
So I help them follow the rules. I help them, stay on track. I might help them learn new things and develop. We look at if they're making the right decisions or not, if they're behaving to all our policies and procedures. It's quite an interesting way of describing it, isn't it? But it's the simplest way I've found to communicate it to young people.
Yeah, definitely.
So maybe we're never really that far away from where we
I don't know
set
what's
out.
worse, either teaching adults or teaching children.
Well, I don't know. I think the expectations are higher from adults, but as we know, learning is a lifelong process.
Yeah.
Even if sometimes we think, how have you not learnt that already? Like, that is really inappropriate, which we often do come across in our job. So you've not been at ZND very long. It's a standalone role, but what kind of HR function do you want to build as you continue to grow within the business and solidify these relationships and foundations with people?
So I want to create a function that is structured but also human as well. So you can put as many policies and procedures and that sort of thing into the business because compliance is, the foundation of it. But I want it to support managers and leaders and give them that confidence, and for the function to actually be seen as someone that can have a seat at that table rather than administrative and that kind of thing. I want people to feel valued, and I want it to drive the growth of the business. So just like Smart World strengthens our barriers and our products, I want HR to be what strengthens our people.
That's nice. I like that. That's really lovely. Yeah, that's really, really nice. I think I can see already how you fit in there. You're like soaking in all of their ethos and thinking about how you can actually bring that systemized approach and their existing values so respectfully into the work that HR is going to do there.
Definitely. I want to support them. I want to be this partner not someone that's going to come in and say, do this, do that.
Yeah, you don't want to be the Grim Reaper or
No.
the rule book, do you? It's
No.
not helpful. And I've always thought as well, if we treat adults at work like children, we can only expect that they're going to behave like children.
Yeah.
Whereas if we treat them like adults, perhaps they'll behave like adults.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's so nice to get feedback from people as well. So as and when you're helping them, I always encourage feedback.
Yeah.
And just say, how you feeling, or how did you find that? And giving them those tools and that confidence, they approach me more. And
Yeah.
sometimes it's a good thing, or sometimes it's a bad thing when you just need 5 minutes. But I love the fact that now having that two-way thing means that they can come to me and they can ask for help. So
Yeah.
yeah.
No, that's really good. It sounds like you're doing a great job. So, if there was any sort of like closing words that you'd leave the listeners with, what would they be?
So have the confidence and back yourself, especially if you've come from somewhere quite larger in a team and you're thinking about having that next challenge. Just go for it.